All right, hello. In this video, we're going to continue our study of classes and objects, and we're going to keep using the triangle code that we started previously. Okay, so just a thought to try and get like a definition for you for what is a class. It's the blueprint from which individual objects are created. And again, that word object is the same as instance. Okay, so you make like instances of a class is the same thing as an object. Okay, so I thought this was a good visual of it. Is like you might have a blueprint for making a car, and then you might actually make a bunch of cars. Okay, so you have just one class which says what do you want to know about your cars? What's its max speed? How many people can fit in it? How much does it weigh? Whatever. Those are the data you want, and then these have actually specific values associated with them. Like you might say, I want to have a color. So here we might say I have string color, right, for the car, but you don't actually give it a color, right? You just say, I want to have my cars are going to track their colors. And then here you would actually specify what color each car has, right? So each object has this variable populated, but you don't want to put it in the class because you don't want to populate it until you make your object, because each object is going to have a different color. Okay, so from one class, you make a whole bunch of different little car objects. All right, so that's the idea of a class and an object. Class is a blueprint. Objects are like specific cars with specific sets of data. Okay, and back on what we were doing, we made a triangle class and we specified a couple variables. And at the end of the last video, we had a couple methods like a get area method and a say hello method. So I can kind of show you that. Here's our triangle, here's our data. And then we have these different methods, things we can do. You can make as many of these as you want. All right. And then we had a second class that called like a runner class that had a main that actually made them. So they made a triangle object and then constructed a second one down here using that new keyword. Okay, so that's kind of the idea, right? In our code, we had one class and we had made from that class, from that blueprint, we had made two different triangles with like different bases and heights. And we can call our methods on them whenever we want, right? So we had triangle one saying hello. We printed out the area of triangle two, and we printed out the area of triangle one along with its base, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to take out some of this code, maybe take out some of the prints here for a second. I'm going to just have my constructing of the two triangles. Oops, so I need something back here. Sorry, I forgot one thing. So I'm going to make this a little simpler. Okay, and so what we're going to extend today is we're going to talk about this is kind of a pain, right? To have to like make the triangle here and then set the base, set the height, right? And then do that for every single triangle, especially if they had more fields, right? So if you think of say like a student object, say in our campus program, there would be first name, last name, address, GPA, year in school, right? There'd be all these different things. There'd probably be hundreds of them. So to make a new student, it'd be a pain to like have to set all the variables this way. Okay, so the way around this in Java is instead of doing it, this is actually unconventional way of creating the triangle object. What they're going to do is instead of doing it with the dot operators like this, they're going to set these fields. Okay, so they're going to make a special method called the constructor that allows you to set the instance variables. Okay, so what's going to happen is essentially this line is a constructor, and a constructor is like a special method that lets you make a triangle object. So what we're going to do is pass in that data here. So I'm going to pass in like my base and my height here. Okay, and then once I change the class for triangle, the blueprint, I won't need these lines anymore. All right, so I'm going to get rid of these lines by just passing in that data. Okay, so same thing down here. Instead of having to do this, I'm just going to pass in that data using a special method called a constructor. Okay, and that's really the purpose of this, is to talk about how do you use a constructor, right? So basically, let's go back to our triangle class, okay? And usually after your instance variables, you're going to make a constructor, okay? And then it's just like a special method that sets the instance variables. their initial values. Okay, so instead of having to do it with the dot operators, this is another way to do it. Okay, and in fact, usually what they're going to do, I forgot to do this before, but usually the instance variables are going to be called private. They're going to make a private modifier here so that you can't access them directly. And we'll go over that more later, but basically you're going to make it private, and then you won't be able to do these dot operators like that, right? Because these are private variables, so you can't change them outside of that class. Okay, so anyways, that's a little bit of a side, but basically we're going to make these private, and then we're going to set them in our constructor. Okay, so the constructor, the name of constructor must match the class name. Okay, so it's a special method, and it'll never have a return type, so you're not going to put anything here. So you're just going to put public and then the name of the class. So in this case, triangle. Okay, so it's kind of a specialized method, and actually the return type is actually going to be a triangle object, I guess. That's what we're going to be constructing, so maybe that's why there's no return type here. Okay, but then I'm going to pass in, so I'm going to pass in an int, sorry, a double actually. So basically you're going to pass in one variable for each of the instance variables. So I'm going to have a double called base in and another double called height in. Okay, and so that'll make, if I save it now that's what's happening here, is I'm going to pass in the base and height numbers into my constructor, just like you would into a method. Okay, and so those are the numbers coming in, and then you just want to set the instance variables. So I want to set the base variable to be whatever is coming in the constructor, called base in, and I'm going to set the height variable to be the height coming in. Okay, so it's a way to set the base and height, right, in one line. Looking back to how we had done it before, right, to make a triangle with a base of 6 and a base of 10 and a height of 6, I would have to do all these lines. Now I can do it in a single line with my constructor, right? So I don't have to set them anymore manually. I can just pass them in my constructor, and then whenever I make a new triangle, I just do new triangle and then pass that data in. Okay, so that's kind of the next piece of our puzzle here, right? So we have a triangle class with these variables, these instance variables, and then we have a specialized method called a constructor. So you could put it underneath methods if you want, but basically we're going to build a constructor as part of our blueprint. Like, how do you construct a triangle? How do you make one, right? And it has to be public and then the name of the class. Again, and you usually take in the whatever instance variables you have. Okay, so that's kind of the third piece of our triangle class, and it's pretty much like a method, but it's a little bit different, called a constructor. All right, and so that's how you'd make a triangle. So then if I want to make another one, let's make another one here. Triangle 3, and a new triangle with, I don't know, height of 10, no, base of 10, height of 20. I think it has to go in that order, base first, then height. Okay, and then you can use it like any other object. I can't do, because I made those variables private, I can't do this anymore. I can't set the base like that. We'll talk about how you actually change the base later. But now I can use it like as always. So I think I made a say hello, right? So I can call it say hello method, or I could print out its area. So I sys out, that one returns something. So I'm going to call triangle 3 dot get area. So I'm going to get the area returned and then print it out. So you can say, hello, I'm a triangle, nice to meet you. Its base is 10, height is 20, and then boom, it prints out the area right there in that print in. So you can use it like we did before, except now we don't have to do these lines of setting it. Okay, that's it for constructors. We'll keep going with the next part in the next lesson. Thanks for watching.